Hello and welcome to our OSDFCon webinar series. We're really glad that you're here and we hope that you're going to learn something today. Before we get started, let me introduce myself. I'm Allie Duveen. I'm the event manager at Basis Technology, and I'm just going to briefly go through some logistics before I introduce Alexis and Mark. So this webinar is being recorded, and we're going to email out the link tomorrow to everyone who registered. So if you find it useful and informative, please feel free to share it with anyone who might be interested. If you have questions anytime during the presentation, you can definitely ask them throughout, but most likely they're going to be answered towards the end during the Q&A session. To submit a question, just type it into the questions pane of the control panel. We scheduled the webinar for 45 minutes. After a very brief introduction from me, there will be a presentation and a demo followed by the Q&A session. Quick plug for the survey. When the webinar ends, you're going to be directed to the survey, and we'd love it if you just spent 1 minute letting us know what you thought. It does help us learn what you thought of this webinar and what you want to see in the future. As mentioned before, I work for Basis Technology. We've been around for 25 years, and our cyber forensics team focuses on building easy-to-use software for the people who are on the front lines of cyber investigations. We built Autopsy, which is one of the most popular open source digital forensics tools in existence, and we also make a tool for incident response called Cyber Triage, which is hyper-focused on intrusion-related investigations, and it automates as much of the process as possible. So enough about me. Without further ado, let's get started. I want to introduce you to Alexis Brignoni, who works as a special agent for the FBI. And a fun fact about him is he has 2 black belts, one in jiu-jitsu. I don't remember what the other one was. What's the other one, Alexis?
Aikido.
Aikido.
Yes, it's
And
the Steven
Mark
Seagal
McKinnon.
thing.
What?
The Steven Seagal thing, you know.
Oh, yes, okay. And Mark McKinnon, who works as an assistant professor at Davenport University, and he actually used to work as a professional clown back in the day, which is a pretty great fun fact. So thank you guys for being here. I'm going to pass it on to you.
All right. So today we're going to talk to you about the xLeapp family. We came up with this presentation because we've started developing more and more Leap programs based on aLeapp and iLeap, and we thought we'd give you a recap of everything that's been going on out there. So who are we? Alexis and Mark. You got our introduction a minute ago, so take it away, Alexis.
Yeah, so again, I want to, on behalf of us, thank Basis Technology for having us. This is a community project. It started with a series of scripts that I was making to parse things, and I was talking to Jessica Hyde. She's with Exordia, and she told me back then, hey, how about you put them all together and kind of like a comprehensive system. So I said, you know what, that's a great idea, let me do that. And I put all those scripts together. Yogesh Khatri, he was really instrumental in helping me develop my Python skills. So this project is Python based, and the goals are, first of all, we want the parsing of objects or artifacts from your evidence to be something that's easy to use, right? I want folks, even if not only easy to use, but also easy to develop, be able to contribute. You say, well, I found an artifact like a text document or a picture or a video in a place that it might be of interest to my case. You can integrate that to the tool set, to the scripts, and in the future, it will pull it out for you and put it in a nice format. The idea is it has to be fast. I don't want the tool set to be sitting for 5-6 hours, right? We need something fast because it's directed at triaging, right? You kind of look at quickly at your data sets so you can figure out what's important, and then you can take a heavier tool like Autopsy or others to actually then drill down on those details. You want that triage, actionable intelligence as fast as you can get it. There's multiple formats. The main interface is going to be in HTML, or report going to be HTML, tab separated values, KMLs. We're going to give you some examples for that. It's really flexible since I try to have it to be mainly pure, for the most part, purely Python. So really well supported programming language, scripting language, and we can do it that way. So it's in use around the world, and it's a community project. everybody contributes and we make the whole thing be better.
So the first one that came along was iLeapp. Initial commit was in 2019, just before the pandemic. As you can see, we got a lot of pandemic work done with all the xLeapps. It was a good thing to be able to be shut in, I guess, for a little while so we could start developing some of this stuff. So what iLeapp does is it goes and looks at iPhone extractions, and it can pull out all the data. Some recent notable additions to it is the Proton Mail. That is something that will look at the messages and the emails. So far, we've had 214 downloads, 52 forks. It reports on 95 plus artifacts. So it's gotten a lot of use. And this was the initial jump into this whole foray of xLeapp files. I'll show you a little bit, a demo of iLeapp and, well, not demo of iLeapp, but a demo of some other things in a little bit.
Yeah, so something to note about iLeapp is that one of the purposes, and I should have said it before, but Mark brought it up. We want the vendors, show the vendors what's important to us, right? If we go and tell them, I mean, the vendors are great, right? They want to listen to us and give us what we need. But if we, as a community, come together, for example, in iLeapp and say, look, we think Proton Mail is important. We got our heads together, specifically expert vLeaps in France. Did some research on Proton Mail. I got together with them and we came up with an open source solution for it. That tells vendors, hey, look, this is important for the community. This is something we want to be supported. iLeapp was the first kind of software script suite to have Proton Mail support, and recently other vendors in the space have catch up to us. And I don't say that in a boastful way. I say that as an application of why we do this. We want the ecosystem of tools that we use in our daily work to match the needs of the community or the needs of the examiners. So I would really commend the folks on, or tell the folks here on the presentation that contribute to us, right? You don't have to be a coder, although if you are, it'll be great. Tell us what's important to you. Hey, this artifact's important to my case. This app is not parsed by other tools. I want aLeapp and iLeapp to parse it, and let's work together and get that done. With that being said, there's aLeapp is for Androids. I'm gonna show you a quick demo of a couple of things, right? So I'm gonna make myself the presenter now, and I'm gonna share my screen. All right, so what you see here is on the left, hopefully it's large enough, hopefully. You'll see here kind of how the report looks. You can make it, you know, there be light, so it's clear, right? And then you can make it dark, really nice. So one of the things that the report does is on the left, it shows you, right, different artifacts. And then as you click to the artifacts, it will, on the central screen, you know, kind of show that. We're indebted to Josh Hickman for his Android test images, Android 12. He's done a great research on it. One of the research that he did and made us aware was that in Android 12, a lot of the XMLs is a new format called ABX, Android Binary XML, right? What you see here on the screen right now on the report is the snapshot report in Android, which tells you, hey, look, these images were recently accessed, when they were accessed by a particular application and the like. Well, the thing is that in the past, these images were pure XMLs, right? You can just read it with your own eyes. So let me show you here how that file, specifically this one here for the snapshot, how that XML file looks now. If I open it with the proper program, there we go. So it's gonna look like this, and I'm gonna try to zoom it in real quick and view. I don't even know how to zoom it, but I'm not gonna waste time on that. So what you see here on the front is ABX and the header. I know it's kind of small, so you know, but you can take Josh Hickman's images and look at those XMLs, and then you can tell some ASCII values here, but you cannot really, you know, it's all kind of hard to read, right? Because it's a binary file, right? We need some conversion. So we reached out to the community, and the community, you know, responded. So we got Alex Caithness. He's from the CCL solutions group, and we started doing some research, and he came out with a way to deserialize these files. So we made some code. So I'm going to show you real quick. Some code. I'm not going to show you the code. It's it's boring. So I'm just going to run it. I'm going to take that ABX file that we saw here, right? That's all kind of all jumbled together, and I'm going to execute that code that Alex and we we'll work together. And now let's look at that XML, how it looks, right? And you can see there on the screen, hopefully it's big enough to see. But you can read things. You can see, the real activity, the application, user ID, the color background, all different things. You can actually read it. And the point I'm mentioning this is that as you come across to your work, you want to make that knowledge known to others. Right now, no tool outside of ours, I say tool in regards to forensic tools, does that parsing. Only aLeapp. I know a few vendors in the space are going to be catching up soon. And that's part of the reason why we do this work, and we want you to be part of it. And that's a quick example of, so we're short on time, I'm not going to show the other one, but on aLeapp, Mark has way more examples to show as well. So let me get back the, I'm going to give you back the screen to you, Mark. Just give me 1 second here. There we go. The screen should be on your side now.
Okay. So you should be able to see it now?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, just to reiterate what Alexis said, with the community coming together, I mean, that's just huge and important thing. And it's, I can't say, great things. It's great to see that. It really is. Okay. Point here. After that one comes cLeapp. This was a start of getting the new xLeapp family going. So we did the initial commit in March. I had talked to Alexis about this and see if he thought there'd be interest in it. A lot of it came from initial work that was done for the Chrome acquisition, and that was produced by the DFRWS, the committee that does all the vetting of the research and stuff. And Magnet came out with a application that would take that and make doing Chromebook acquisitions a lot easier. We're in the midst of the pandemic. Lots of people were starting to use Chromebooks, so it sounded like a great project to try to do this, and it fit in well with the aLeapp. So that's basically why we did it. Right now it does 45 plus artifacts, 67 total downloads, and there's going to be more to come. I just haven't had time to work on it at this point in time. So it's the same thing that we have with any of the other ones. The beauty about doing one of the, trying to find where I have everything. Using this is that the interface is the same thing no matter which one you're using. So it makes it really clean to get and do stuff with. So
yeah, if
I got a demo of that.
Use one of those, use them all. It's the same workflow and interface, so it makes it easy for the user to transition, among the different leaps.
Yep. So it's basically giving you some of the same information, Google Chrome history, that type of stuff. So, if you look at some of these projects, you can see where we've taken some of the artifacts and transferred them all the way across. cLeapp, aLeapp, iLeap, some of them are all the same. And so we're getting that consistency as well as we're showing you the data. So that's another bonus there too, is we're showing consistent looks across different platforms and different things. And so once you see it one way, you see it the same way every other place. So next after that came vLeap.
Hey, Mark, is your slide? Are you moving the slides? I don't think mine seems to be kind of stuck in aLeap. Maybe it's me. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm moving the slides, but
Okay, maybe it's me. All right, that's fine. Go ahead. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it should be.
There we go. I see vLeapp now. Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So vLeapp came out. Initial commit was August 14th. 4 contributors. It's got 7+ artifacts reported on right now. So this one is taking vehicle information and allowing you to actually parse it. Now, a couple of these we've actually put into Autopsy, and one of the really cool things with vLeapp is that it can pull out the latitude and longitude information, and I'm going to show you this in Autopsy because that's where it is, we've taken advantage of it. But it creates a KML file, and you can import that KML file. We're just importing it into Autopsy right now. So I don't know, hopefully you can see the screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
So here's some data I made some additions to. I've changed it so that you can see that, this is where this vehicle actually was driven. Now, it's not over the right roads because I've taken the data and I've made changes to it, but you can see that, you can look at this and say, wow, this is kind of cool. We can actually see where this person went.
Yeah, and let me add something real quick. The vLeapp for vehicles, right? The extractions usually are from Verla extractions, right? And I mean, I love their products, but I wanted the look to be different, also for validation. But I haven't said one purpose of these tools is to validate. You can use your tools and then run hours. I say hours, but the communities, open source ones, and you can validate and make sure that your data sets are consistent. Maybe you're missing something with what tool, and then the leaps get it, or vice versa, right? And the KMLs that are produced by vLeapp, you can put them in Autopsy. It's a great way of seeing all the data integrated, or you can open them with Google Maps. And if you're familiar with the Google Map interface, then you can go crazy with it and do all sorts of mapping with it. Either way is fine. But the main takeaway point is validation, right? The leaps will give you this output. You can validate other tools with it, and vice versa.
Yeah, excellent point. Excellent point, Alexis. Now you should see the next slide.
Yep.
All right. rLeapp, this was shortly after that. This is for your returns in your archives. And I can only do the archives. Law enforcement does the returns, correct, Alexis?
Yeah. So the nomenclature we're using, or the words we're using for archives, is when you go to Google and say, give me all the data you have on me in my account. It's called takeout. Google takeout. Give me that. So we call that an archive. Or you go to Instagram or Snapchat. Give me all the data you have on me on my account. So it's user generated. Obviously, if you do not do it for somebody else, you will need that person's consent. They will have to give you the username and password to let you get that data, right? That's an archive. Now, we call returns ones that are data provided by the third parties via legal process. So if you're a law enforcement officer, you send a subpoena, you send a search warrant, and then Snapchat returns you a product, right? Some documentation for you to responsive to your request. So I deal with the returns part because as a law enforcement officer, I get access to those. And the thing with it is those returns is that sometimes they're really not too friendly to look at, right? It's all disjointed or weird formats. And the idea is that rLeapp can go, and if you're in law enforcement, take like, for example, Kik, Snapchat, Instagram, and parse that for you and put it in a way that's easy for you to review for evidentiary purposes. Mark has done incredible work with the archive that he does have access as a user of the softwares and of the third-party platforms, and he's integrated some of those as well into rLeapp. A quick note: rLeapp is one of the fastest growing in regards to usage for law enforcement, at least in my organization, a few folks, and outside of it. So if you're a law enforcement officer, give it a look. You have a return that's kind of hard to look at, let me know, and hopefully we can work together on it.
This is just an example of one of them. That this was Coinbase. This is a archive that I took. You can see that we have third-party authorizations, confirmed devices. So you can see that we now have IP addresses. We can actually see transactions that took place. All this information is available via the archive. Now, one of the interesting things here, at least with this report, I know I've done the Netflix one for archive as well. And one of the interesting things that we put in this is that because we now have, not there, right here, we're getting more IP addresses. So one of the things that we actually did was we made it so that we can get all those IP addresses. So if you're looking for a specific IP address or a grouping of them, or you don't know that they even existed, they'll show up here and you can actually look for them and say, okay, I didn't know about that IP address. And that may help you out in your investigation, just giving you more information. And basically, we're starting to potentially cook some of the data and boil it down so that you can get the good nuggets from it. Okay, so you should see the slide deck again.
Mm-hmm.
wLeapp. So this one is basically in its infancy. This one was started, I think it was Discord was the first one you did with it, Alexis. Was the first artifact. There's been a few more artifacts that have been added, and we'll get to that in a later slide for by DFI Science. But this one is same principle, except we're processing a Windows image instead of, or image tar in tar zip, or however you get your data, and going after that information. So it's still in infancy. It'll be growing. I can just see it now. And same thing. We have lots to work to do on it, and it'll get there eventually.
Yeah, and don't get us wrong. I mean, there's plenty of Windows-based tools to do intrusion and all different things, and that's fine. But again, our purpose is to have a platform that's quick for triaging really specific things that you may want to add to it. The first artifact that I made was for better Discord because I didn't see it anywhere. And developing for the leaps is pretty easy, right? I have like Mark was saying, during the lockdown, kind of semi-lockdown periods we had a community, we had a class, a Python class focused for forensics, and that's available in my YouTube channel, like 20-something course class on how to use Python for forensics. So if you're inclined, you can take that little course and you'll know enough to be able to develop your own artifacts, your own parsers for artifacts in any of the leaps. So maybe you might want to check that out. I think at the end we're going to provide some links so how you can reach us, and then you can find them that way.
Yep. I was going to think of something, and it popped in my head and popped right out.
It's my fault, me interrupting you every 2 minutes. My bad.
That's okay. It all of a sudden just popped back in. You know, most products that, you know, Autopsy and Axiom and Celebrate and everything, they all have development cycles. So it takes a while for something to, once it's introduced, to get through that whole development cycle till it actually comes out to be used for everyday use. Here, we can actually add things a lot quicker to see, is it going to work? What's it going to do? And give you that satisfaction of getting something a lot sooner before you get it in other tools. So that's another bonus about all this as well, of being an open source.
Absolutely.
Some of the tool uses, you know, Autopsy, I've put just about everyone. The only one I have not put in there now is wLeapp, but cLeapp, rLeapp, vLeapp, all those are built-in ingest or third-party ingest modules for Autopsy. Autopsy already has aLeapp and iLeap built in. There is some updating that needs to be done for those, but at some point I'll get around to updating that again so that it'll have the newest version out there. And maybe I'll, get really energetic and put cLeapp, rLeapp, and vLeapp in there as well. So, all the leaps are in there. And just to show you a quick of what it actually looks like. So once you get your data source in there, we can come down here and we can see that there's aLeapp, a cLeapp, an rLeapp, vLeapp, iLeap. So all of them in there, you just pick out whichever one you want, and it's good to go. I use the vLeapp one here just so you can see it. Depending on which one you run, it may run for a little while, but you can see some of the different artifacts that we do have for vLeapp. Outside temperature, I don't know. I'm assuming I know where Alexis is, so it's a lot warmer than it is where I'm at. Speed limits, transmission status. So a lot of different artifacts are generated here, and you can easily see them and look at them and check them out. And then for the vLeapp one, like you did for the geolocation one, you can see that as well. So, we've tried to make this as easy as possible for people to use and utilize outside of if they want to use Autopsy. But you don't have to. They come with the GUI that comes with each of the Leap programs. Fantastic. Also the command line as well, if you like the command line. And the other bonus too is you're not limited to just doing this on Windows. You can do it on Mac. You can do it on Linux. It's up to you.
And a good benefit with Autopsy is that right now the leaps, they either read your data source from a container like zip, tar, or from a file system, like a folder on your computer. But what if you have an extraction from an Android phone that's a bin file? It's like a physical bin file. I haven't made that code. It's a bit time consuming, but you know what? Autopsy is able to read bin files. So you give that data source to Autopsy. Autopsy goes into that bin file, pulls out the data that aLeapp needs, and then it gives you the report and puts it on the interface. So you get access to additional data sources beyond zip-like containers, right? Or files on a folder, right? You get bin files, EO1s. If your data is in any of those formats that Autopsy supports, then they will be by relationship that being together, they'll be supported also by the Leap tools. So it's, again, Autopsy is fantastic. It opens the door to an almost infinite amount of data sources.
And there is an xLeapp project, which is a project that's geared towards putting all of the different Leap programs under one umbrella. So that is out there as well. So you could probably go, I didn't include the link here, but go search for it on GitHub. It is in its infancy as it's at this point, but it looks very interesting, and it'll give you that one-stop shopping. So if you don't want to have to deal with all the versions of vLeapp, iLeap, aLeap, xLeapp looks like it's going to give you that one-stop shopping. You just need to use that, and it will be in there. I mentioned before about the DFI Science. They had a DFI Dev Competition in the month of November, and the reason I'm pointing this out is this is a great thing that they did. The goal of their competition was to contribute code to aLeapp, iLeap, and wLeapp. They ended up giving some cash prizes, stickers, course coupons for people who were looking to add to it. And this is a great way to get more community involvement and get people wanting to add things that they might not thought that they could do. There were 2 winners. You can go and look at the blog post for it to see exactly what they did, but they contributed to aLeap and wLeapp. And wLeapp, I think it was like 13 artifacts that were produced, and aLeap, there was a couple artifacts that they produced. So this is a great thing. I'd love to see the competitions like this because it brings out other people that normally probably wouldn't be doing this type of work. It gives them a goal and a purpose, and helps them to contribute where they might not have contributed before. So the question is, how can you help? Well, we got Python developers. Hey, if you're a Python developer, submit code for new artifacts, update code for existing artifacts. And this last big one, and to me, it's a really big one, and it helps everybody out, creation of test data to use. You know, Josh Hickman has done a great job in, for iPhones and Androids, you know, giving us some great test data to actually look at. And, you know, he's done a fantastic job, and that gives us some, but in other areas, we tend up lacking in some test data. Now, I know test data can be very tricky to do, but if you can create some test data so that we could use it, that would be fantastic. When I was doing the rLeapp, I ended up taking my archive for Netflix, and I scrubbed the data, and I'm going to give that back to the rLeapp project so that anybody that wants to test rLeapp, they'll have the data set that they can test with. So something good that everybody can use. And for us developers, you know, we need test data in order to test new things with. Now, if you're a non-developer, what can you do? Hey, maybe you can research artifacts and provide this research to developers. Also, you can create test data as well. You know, you may have a data set of a SQLite database or something. All you got to do is put some dummy data in there and give it to somebody else and let them parse it. It doesn't necessarily have to be live data. You can dumb up the data as much as you want, and it helps everybody to do that. Lastly, you know, GitHub repository contributors. All these people have done great work in the Leaps. I took all these names off of the contributors for GitHub for each of the projects. They're in really no special order, but all these people have contributed to any of the projects. So if I've missed somebody, I apologize, but I mean, I just took these off GitHub itself. So, but you know, all these people are bringing this community together and helping us to create a great product so that other people can actually use it. Here's some references that we have. Those are all our repositories. The first two were how I got the stats, and I think that is about it.
Yeah, I'm just want to add real quickly that some of these of the leaps, even if you don't know how to run a Python script, there's a release in some of them, so you can download an executable for Windows and just run it. Obviously, the release is gonna be a little bit behind the main code in the repository because you know I can't be doing releases every day, right? But I kind of wait a few months and then I make a new release. But if you want to run the latest and greatest, then you have to run the script straight from Python. But if you're not in a hurry, then you can run the release and get, you know, the big chunk of the functionality just by running a Windows binary, a program. Just run it, the executable, and you're good to go. No need to install Python or anything else. So you can get that at the different GitHub pages that have releases in them, if that makes sense.
And I wanted to show one other thing here real quick too. Will I be able to show it? I don't know if I'll be able to show it yet. But I was just going to show you the interface, but I don't have. Just a second.
I see some questions, Mark. So maybe we want to. Yeah, go to that, then we go to the questions. Mm-hmm.
Yep, I just wanted to show. I mean, this was the aLeapp one. This is just what the GUI looks like. It's you know, browse for file folder, browse for folder. Here's all your different and then process, and that's it. Ask you to open it up in HTML, and all of them are the exact same thing, so it's easy enough to use.
Absolutely.
Okay. Would it be possible? First question: would it be possible to add OCR search and media classification pick and vids for digging a little deeper while triaging data?
I mean, Mark is a super capable developer, so he might say different than me, right? But at least from my skill set, I mean, it can be done. The question is, well, how long is it going to take? At least from my perspective, one of the design principles behind the leaps is for triaging, right? If adding OCR or image classification is going to add 2 hours of processing, I most likely won't do it. I'd rather pull the pictures out for you, and then you can run it separately. I mean, we could maybe add an artifact that does that separately. I don't know. We can definitely. It's a community project. We can discuss it, but it's a balancing act between the data that we need and how much time do we have to get it. So how much that would take, we would take some research, but that's a great idea though. I mean, maybe we can implement it in some way or fashion moving forward. Absolutely.
I totally agree there too. The problem with doing the OCR is you probably would look at using something like Tesseract, and that would make everything a lot larger. So, and to get to what Alexis said too, it would increase processing time a lot. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay.
All right. So all right. So how about you do one and I do one?
Okay.
All right. So here's some comments about the slide being stuck, but that's been taken care of. All right. It says here, when trying to ingest with Autopsy for these, for example, with iLeap, do we present the data source as a tar file or folder?
I would do a folder myself. If the other thing is pretty quick too is if you could create a VHD file and then put the files into the VHD itself and then process it as a VHD, that would work just as well. You could also do it as a zip. So you can do it as any one of the formats. It's all up to what you want to do.
I did it with a bin file that I got from one of the tools, and it worked gangbusters. It was fantastic because I cannot process bin files with any of the leaps as they are, right? But through Autopsy, I was able to do it no sweat. So it's a great unity there between the tools.
Yep. Are the Leap ingest modules built into the latest version of Autopsy? Only the iLeap and the aLeap are built into Autopsy. All the other Leaps are third-party modules. If you go into Autopsy, if you've ever been into my repos, there is a Autopsy plugin NBM where you can find all those other ones. So sometime in the future, I hope to get those into Autopsy so they'll all be there, but it may take a little while for me to get around to doing that.
You know, and anybody here on the call that want to contribute to that effort, I mean, open arms. please do. All right, so it says here, if I recall, Autopsy used to have an Android analyzer ingest module. How is aLeap different? Yes, you recall correctly, and it's still there. The Android analyzer is there, and there might be some overlap. For example, maybe on text messages, because the Android analyzer pulls messages, and aLeap does too, for example. But there's other artifacts that the Android analyzer does not pick, right? So it's a good thing. You can have the ones that the Android analyzer shows to you, plus all the ones that aLeap shows to you, and then you just kind of put them all together within the Autopsy interface, and you can do your analysis on those.
Yep, that is correct. And one thing to note too is that when Autopsy those run, it does create a report that points to the HTML file for the xLeapp report, so you can actually pull those up as well. Next one is, here's one to add mLeap for MacBooks. That one, I don't know. There's Mac APT is out there, and that does a fantastic job. So I'm not sure if it'd be muddy in the waters too much with going what they're already doing. You know, in my mind, it'd be a lot of work that would be the same. So I guess I'd rather point you to Mac APT to do it by Yogesh, and use that for the MacBooks.
And I totally agree. I mean, Yogesh, the code base for the Leaps, a lot of it is Yogesh's. So I will definitely recommend him to anybody, any day, anytime. That being said, all this code for the Leaps is MIT license, which means that you can fork it, you can take it and use it as you see fit, right? And maybe you're saying, well, you know what, I want to create my own mLeap, then go ahead. I mean, and let me know. I'll be glad to know that it's being used. So yeah, any of this, the code, any of it is free for you to use and expound upon. And if you do something cool with it, you want to add it back to the tool set, please let us know. I'm more than happy to merge that improvements to it.
So, okay, I have a question for you, Alexis. So I'm not a Python developer, and I wanted to get more into Python and help to contribute. How can I do that?
So, I mean, there's many ways. I'm gonna obviously show you the tools that I have put out. Let me see if I can. So, if you want to learn Python, I mean, Python is one of the most supported languages currently, one of the most popular. That's why I picked Python to begin with, and our tool sets use Python a lot. So I would recommend a class. I have a class. Let me see. Can I put links on this thing? Let me see here. On chat, and maybe I can put a link on the chat. Let's do that real quick. So let me go to quickly. Let me find the page. So I have a class. I think I mentioned it already. A YouTube channel, and in that YouTube channel, there's a playlist. Actually, I'm gonna share the full playlist. You know what? I'm gonna share the whole channel because the whole channel has stuff for forensics. So let me share that for you. I'm gonna paste it in the chat. Type message here, right? Yep. And I'm gonna hit enter here. So if you go to this YouTube channel, hopefully everybody can see it there. You will see a playlist. Go to the playlist section and look for the DFIR study group. We did that when the pandemic started, 20-something classes, and I take you from how to run a Python script, as basic as that is, to how to actually code for it. Talking about how to run a Python script. If you're like, you know what, I don't want to code at all, that's not my thing, but I do want to run the scripts, right? The latest and greatest. I'm gonna put here another link. This video is how to install Python, how to download the files you need from GitHub, and then how to run it, okay? And that's it. You don't have to know coding to do this. That's the second link. That's targeted to examiners that want to run the tools, but are not able or don't have the time to learn Python to develop or create artifacts, right? So, you know, again, the first link, you want to learn how to create artifacts and code in Python, first link. Second link, how to just run scripts, and that's it. I'm going to share one more thing. If you're interested in the resources that I put out, I kind of centralize them in this page, and I'm going to share now. You'll see there different, you know, script resources, talks that I give in the past, and you can get those there. So those are the resources I put out. But don't get me wrong, there's great courses, Python courses that you can take online, focus on incident response, focused on, you know, development of software in general. So it depends on what you're trying to achieve. You can go to your community colleges, universities. They might offer Python courses there as well. And certification bodies like SANS and others, they also give Python courses targeted towards that. So it depends on what your budget is, your time, and what your purpose of learning Python is. Hopefully that answers the question, Mark. I talked too much.
Nope, perfect. Let's see, where are we at? I know there was one. Can you share location for some Android or iOS test images? I don't know if you had that in your.
Yes, I can get you that. So what you need to do is go to Josh Higman has a blog, and I posted out. It's called the binaryhig.blog. Has different entries there. Just kind of scroll down to the blog, and I'm gonna paste the link now. And in his blog, there's an entry, or you can search in his blog for Android 12, Android 11, iOS 14, iOS 13. There's blog posts there that have the links to download those. They've become, in my mind, I say my mind, but honestly, it's become industry standard now. All the vendors use his tool sets because they've become, based on his good work, uniform through the examiners. We all know about them. We all use them. They're great tools. A lot of research has been done or discovered because Josh made the image for it. So go to his blog and seek those out, and you'll be happy that you did.
Okay, so the next two, we got that one. Is there a GUI for all the tools, and can they all be done by CLI? Yes and yes. There is a command line interface in for each one of them, as well as the GUI. So it's aLeapp, for example, aLeapp.exe or exe if using exe or .py, and aLeapp GUI for the GUI. So you can do either one. The nice thing about doing the GUI is, you don't have to type everything in. You can just use your mouse and find everything. It'll also ask you to open up the HTML file, so you don't have to actually go and find that. Last one, I think that's the last one. Can you ingest magnet acquire collections? Go ahead, Alexis.
Well, yes. So like Josh's latest Android 12 collection is from, he used Acquire to do it. I think Acquire does a tar, maybe. It depends on what the type of collection is. As long as it's an archive, yes, of course, be aware. If the zip that has the files is inside another zip, right? Well, you have to decompress the first level zip, right? I don't go into the nested zips to get it out for you. You gotta make sure that you give me the archive or the zip file or the tar file that has the files in it, not a tar file that's inside another tar file. Does that make sense? So get your container as close to the data, and the leaps should be able to parse it. I've used it with magnets stuff. I think, but actually for cLeapp, I think my understanding is that the only tool that does the collection of the Chromebooks is the magnet one. Correct, Mark?
That's correct.
So if you're using Chromebooks and you want to use cLeapp, you have to use the magnet tool, because that's the only one open source that I know of that can pull data from Chromebooks.
Or you use the actual process that I believe it was Daniel Dickman that did the process. If you can use that process as well, which that's the one magnet.
More of a manual process, yes, but absolutely.
Yeah. Yep, you can do the manual process that's described by him, or Magnet automated it so that it makes life a lot easier for you. Oh, we got some more here. Okay, Magnet. How exactly does vLeapp collect the location data?
So see, that with cars, it's a tough one because it's not uniform. And it's not even uniform in between cars of the same brand, right? So it's really car specific. Right now, I have parsers for certain entertainment or infotainment system, I should say, for Ford vehicles. But if anybody else on the call has any extraction they could share from other cars, we can just make the artifacts. You have to literally, it's kind of like a manual process, right? You go into the image, the extraction, and try to figure out where that geolocation data is, and then parse it out to the report, right? And obviously, do some validation if possible. It's hard because, get a car and drive it and then extract it and test it is hard, but it's all triaging, and that's why I make that caveat. It's for triaging, and then you'll always have to validate. Your normal regular forensic process needs validation. So that's how vLeapp does it, but it's on the examiner. It's on you or the developer to get that extraction, get that data, and then we make it public. The parser.
Yep.
Hey,
go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just going to pop on and say one more question because we want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Okay. Awesome. Does cLeapp work only on Chrome products, or will it work on other Google products? It basically works off the image that is done from a Chromebook. Could it possibly work on other Google products? Yeah, just like any of the other ones might. It's a possibility. We just have to see what the data is that you're trying to actually do. If you're looking at like a Google takeout, that would be more for rLeapp to handle and do.
I want to make a quick comment. Obviously, this tool will be missing things, right? We might be missing, like so right now with the aLeapp, we don't have the native messages, and we used to have them. And I'll be straight with you, with everybody in the call. We had some licensing issues with the person that made that code, so we removed it because we're respectful of everybody's property, intellectual rights. Now that being said, if anybody on the call can come up with an SMS, MMS parser for aLeapp, like, hey, here's the database, here's the query, and make it public and share it in a licensing like that we can use, we'll be more than happy to add it. Send me a pull request and we'll definitely add it. So don't think well, this doesn't have it, I'm defenseless. No, go do the research, do a query for it, and share it, and let's work together and we'll make the tool better. So it's a call to arms to be an active part of the community and give as much as you have received. So
excellent. I think that's all the time we had. Correct, Ellie?
Yes. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for putting in some extra time to answer questions. If you have any more questions, Alexis gave you a whole bunch of those links, so definitely reach out. I know on that link app, he's got a ton of different ways to reach out to him. So, and he said he'd be happy to have you guys do that. I also just put a couple links in the chat. We do have 2 more OSDFCon webinars scheduled, one on February 17th where Daniel Beyer is going to be talking about FryTap, and one on March 29th where Bob Cardell is going to be talking about log parser as a forensic tool. And a quick plug, if you want to see a live demo of Cyber Triage, which is not open source, but it's a tool for simplified incident response, we do have one more live webinar scheduled on January 24th, and you can ask Brian Carrier all the questions that you want. So you can check out those links in the chat. So thank you, Alexis and Mark, so much. Thank you for everyone that's joining us. And again, lastly, please take a minute to tell us if you loved or what you loved or hated from this webinar so we can continue to give you great content. So hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you on the next one. Bye.